Title: The Day I Learned Who My Wife Really Was. Hey there, welcome to Cheating Story Lab. If this is your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and drop a comment letting me know where you're tuning in from. I never imagined I'd be the one telling a story like this. You always assume these kind of things happen to someone else. But here I am. My name isn't important. But what happened to me might save your relationship. Maybe even your life. That's not an exaggeration. You'll see what I mean soon enough. I was married to a woman named Vivian for 8 years. Lovely name, right? She was just as lovely in appearance. At least, that's what everyone always said. For a long time, I believed it too. From the outside, our life looked perfect. A beautiful house in the suburbs, 2 nice cars, solid careers. She worked in marketing. I was in IT consulting. People saw us as that ideal couple others aspired to be. But there were clues. There always are. It started out subtly. Vivian would get phone calls and step outside to answer them, saying they were confidential work calls. At the time, that seemed reasonable. Then came the extended hours at work, last-minute weekend conferences that came from nowhere. I had complete faith in her. Honestly, maybe too much. The first major red flag was when she changed the password on her phone. We'd always been open with each other, shared everything. When I asked about it, she became instantly guarded, said I was acting paranoid, that even married people are entitled to their own space. She spun it so well, I ended up questioning myself. That's when I began to notice the smaller things. She'd grin at her phone when she thought I wasn't paying attention, started taking it into the bathroom while she showered, claiming she was listening to a podcast. New clothes began appearing, tucked deep into the closet, tags still on. Still, I didn't want to face the obvious. It's hard to believe something like that about someone you love. The breaking point came one Tuesday evening in March. I came home early after a client meeting got canceled. As I walked through the door, I heard her upstairs, on the phone. I wasn't trying to spy, but the walls in our house are thin. She was laughing, not her usual laugh. This was softer, almost seductive. Then I heard it, words that froze me in place. Don't worry, baby. It won't be long now. I've got all planned out. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept replaying it in my mind. What wasn't going to take long? What did she have planned? I knew I had to find out. I realized this might paint me as the bad guy, but I installed a recording app on her phone while she was in the shower. I'd memorized a new passcode from watching her type it in. I felt sick about it, but I had to know. 3 weeks went by. Nothing suspicious. Just the usual. Work meetings, chats with her sister, a call to the dentist. I almost deleted the app. Almost convinced myself I was losing it. Then came the moment that changed everything. It was a Saturday morning. She told me she was heading out to run errands. I stayed home, and that's when I listened in. She was in the car, speaking to someone named Marcus. I'd never heard of him before. What followed still gives me chills. She wasn't just cheating. She was engineering a divorce. She'd been crafting fake evidence, claiming emotional and physical abuse. She was taking pictures of bruises she'd given herself, fabricating a record of false police calls she hadn't even made yet, but planned to. And the worst part? She was planning to accuse me of financial manipulation too, quietly funneling money from our joint account into a hidden one I'd never seen. She had an entire legal strategy mapped out to destroy me. Marcus? He wasn't just her boyfriend. He was also her divorce attorney. They'd been orchestrating this for months. I sat there in my car outside the grocery store, listening to this twisted plan unfold. The woman I'd shared a life with for nearly a decade was plotting my downfall like a chess game. Then came the part that broke me. Marcus asked if she felt even a little guilty, and she laughed. He's such an idiot. He'll never see it coming. By the time I'm finished, he'll be lucky to rent a 1-room apartment. I backed up every single recording. 2 days later, she sat me down, tears in her eyes, claimed she was miserable, said she thought we should go our separate ways. Her performance was convincing. If I hadn't heard the truth with my own ears, I might have believed she was just heartbroken. She moved out the following week. Exactly 2 weeks later, I was served divorce papers. The accusations were brutal: emotional abuse, controlling the finances, threats. She requested spousal support, half of all our assets, and a restraining order. When my attorney reviewed the papers, he just shook his head. He told me it would be a drawn-out, expensive battle, and the court often side with the wife when it's one word against another. That's when I told him about the recordings. His entire demeanor changed, like I just handed him a loaded weapon. The court hearing was on a humid Thursday in June. She walked in with Marcus, my first time seeing the guy, tall, sharply dressed, smug. Probably thought he had it in the bag. Vivian took the stand and gave a heartbreaking testimony, how I'd allegedly broken her spirit over the years, made her feel worthless, unsafe. She even cried at all the perfect moments. Marcus followed with his evidence. Bank statements meant to show financial control, photos of bruises, a timeline of abuse. He was building a convincing case. Even I started to doubt myself for a second. Then it was our turn. My attorney stood up. Your Honor, we like to submit evidence that not only disproves a plaintiff's claims, but reveals a deliberate scheme to manipulate this court. Marcus immediately objected, called it desperate, an attempt to smear his client. The judge allowed it. We played the first recording. Vivian discussing how she'd been moving funds out of our accounts. Exact dates. Dollar amounts. Marcus turned pale. Still, he kept a composure at first. Then came the second recording. Vivian laughing, mocking me, saying I'd never see it coming, that she'd take everything. Marcus leaned over, whispering something to her. She didn't respond, just stared straight ahead, frozen. And then the final nail. Vivian talking about faking injuries, how she'd studied up on shelters to make her story sound real, how she'd practiced crying in front of a mirror. The courtroom fell silent. You could hear every breath. When it ended, Marcus stood up and said, I'm withdrawing from this case, effective immediately, then walked out without another word. The judge paused proceedings. After recess, Vivian returned to the table, alone, no attorney. The judge gave her a chance to amend her statement. One last opportunity to come clean. She didn't say a word, just stared down at her hands. In the end, she walked away with nothing. No spousal support. No share of the property. The judge even ordered her to cover my legal costs. Perjury charges were discussed, but never filed. Still, Marcus was suspended from practicing law for 6 months. It wasn't the first time he'd helped a client manufacture evidence. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized. I kept everything: the home, the cars, the accounts. Vivian moved out of state to live with her sister. I haven't seen her since. But here's what keeps me up at night. If I hadn't uncovered her plan, if I hadn't recorded those conversations, she would have succeeded. I would have lost everything. Maybe even ended up with a criminal record for something I didn't do. How many men have gone through this without the evidence to prove the truth? I'm not sharing this for pity. I'm telling it because I learned something critical. Sometimes, the person lying beside you at night is your greatest threat. Listen to your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is. If this story hit home for you, please subscribe, click the bell icon, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support helps creators like me bring real stories from real people to light. Thanks for watching.